Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are really glad you're here with us today.
It's great to be back.
We are opening up a file today that, I'm just going to be honest right out of the gate, usually comes with a pretty heavy do not disturb sign hanging on it.
Oh, absolutely. That's a good way to put it.
We are talking about the eyes.
Yeah.
Specifically, we are doing a comprehensive, no-nonsense breakdown of retinopathy care. And the moment I say the word retinopathy or, diabetic eye disease, there is a specific physiological reaction that happens to people.
There is. You can almost feel it through the microphone. Shoulders go up. The stomach tightens a little bit. It's heady stuff.
It is heavy. And, it feels like it's one of the most emotionally charged topics we could possibly cover in these deep dives.
I'd agree with that because vision isn't just a sense, right? It's the primary way we navigate the world. It's our independence and how we see the faces of the people we love. So when we start talking about threats to that independence, the anxiety levels they spike immediately. It's primal.
It really is. And looking through the stack of research and patient guides we have for today, and I have to say, specifically this really incredible series titled The Vision Restored, what jumped out at me wasn't the biology at first.
How so?
It wasn't the diagrams or the charts. It was the psychology. The sources, they start by calling out the elephant in the room immediately.
Which is?
The guilt loop. You know that feeling,
Yeah.
that 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling feeling where you think, I haven't checked my blood sugar in 3 days, or
I missed that eye appointment last year.
Exactly. And now I'm too scared to go because of what they might find.
That fear of finding out is a massive barrier to care. It's a distinct phenomenon we see all the time.
So it's not just procrastination. It's an active fear.
It is. In the medical world, we have this very sterile term for it, the clinical pathway. It sounds so nice and organized, like a little sidewalk.
Yeah, a neat little line on a flowchart.
But the reality for the person living it is what I call the clinical hallway. It's that long, quiet walk to the exam room where you're replaying every candy bar you ate in 1998, and you're just convinced you've done irreparable damage.
Wow.
It's shame, and shame is a terrible motivator. It almost always leads to avoidance, which is the exact opposite of what we need.
That's the ostrich strategy, right? Head in the sand. If I don't see the doctor, the problem doesn't exist. It's logical in a twisted way, If you don't get the diagnosis, you don't have the disease.
It's a coping mechanism, a flawed one, but I get it.
But the sources we are deep diving into today, they just flip that narrative completely upside down. They lead with a philosophy that I think is going to anchor our whole hour together.
And that is?
Never too late. Now, I have to play devil's advocate here because I know our listeners are sharp. Is that just a platitude?
Right. Is it just a nice thing to say?
Yeah, that's just something to make us feel better. Because when we're talking about delicate nerve tissue, never seems like a really, really strong word.
It sounds like a bumper sticker, I know. I get the skepticism. But biologically, it actually holds water. And that's the core thesis we really need to get across today.
Okay, so unpack that for us.
Retinopathy is often viewed by patients as a cliff. You walk along, you're fine, and then you step off the edge and you fall. It feels binary. You have sight or you don't.
1 or 0.
Exactly. But the physiology of the eye, what's actually happening back there, tells us it's not a cliff, it's a slope. And it's a slope you can often climb back up.
So it's a process.
It is a process. The eye is living tissue. It's dynamic. It reacts to stress. Yes, absolutely. But it also reacts to relief. It wants to heal.
So our mission statement for this deep dive then is to move from that paralysis of fear to a toolkit of facts.
I love that. A toolkit.
We aren't here to lecture about diet. We aren't here to wag a finger at anyone. We're here to look under the hood of the most complex optical instrument in the universe, your eye, and figure out how to keep it running.
Exactly. We're moving from the idea of saving vision in a desperate panic mode sort of way to stabilizing the system in a strategic, knowledgeable way. It's about maintenance, not just emergency repair.
Okay, so to do that, we have to understand the machine. And I'll be honest, when I opened the anatomy section of the source material, my eyes glazed over.
It happens to everyone.
Rods, cones, vitreous, macula, fovea. It gets dense really fast. It feels like you need a PhD just to understand what you're looking at.
Right.
But then I found this analogy buried deep in the text that it completely unlocked it for me. They compare the eye to a garden.
The garden analogy. It is, hands down, the best heuristic I've ever seen for explaining retinal health without needing a medical degree.
It makes it real.
It takes the abstract and makes it tangible. You can picture it.
So let's build this garden for everyone listening. If my eye is a garden, Paint the picture for me. What are we looking at here?
Okay, so close your eyes for a second,
Yeah.
which is ironic, I know, and just picture a garden bed in your backyard.
Got it.
The most important part of any garden is the soil, right?
Of course.
In the eye, the soil is the retina. This is that thin, delicate layer of tissue that lines the very back of the eyeball.
And like soil, its job is to catch things like seeds or water.
Precisely. Soil catches seeds and water to create growth. The retina catches photons, particles of light.
Okay.
And it's not just skin inside the eye, it's actual neurotissue. This is the fascinating part. It's technically part of your brain that has migrated out to sit in your eye socket during fetal development.
Whoa, so it's literally brain tissue.
It is incredibly complex soil packed with millions of photoreceptors that turn light into electrical signals. Without the soil, nothing grows. Without the retina, nothing is seen.
Okay, so we have this high-tech neurosoil, but soil dries out if you just leave it alone. It needs an irrigation system, it needs water.
Right. And this is where the trouble usually starts. Running all through this soil is a very, very fine mesh of microscopic soaker hoses.
Soaker hoses, I like that.
These are the retinal capillaries. I mean, they are thinner than a human hair, and their entire job is to deliver oxygen and nutrients to that very hungry soil.
And in a healthy eye.
In a healthy eye, this system is perfect. The hoses seep just enough nutrients to keep the soil firm and fertile, but not so much that it gets swampy. It's a perfect balance.
But since we're talking about retinopathy, we know the irrigation system is failing. The source material identifies what it calls the two disruptors of this garden. And this is where the physics of the body comes in. It's not magic, it's just mechanics. The first disruptor is the pressure of the water.
Yes. High blood pressure. Think about those delicate little soaker hoses we just described. They're designed for a gentle trickle, a soft seepage.
Right.
If you hook them up to a fire hydrant and crank the valve all the way open, what happens to the hose?
It's going to burst, or at least stretch.
The walls of the hose are going to strain, they stretch, they form these little weak spots, little balloons. They simply aren't built for that eye.
Okay, so that's pressure. The second disruptor is the consistency of the water itself. This was the aha moment for me regarding blood sugar. I always thought of sugar as just, calories or energy. But physically, in the blood, it's not just an energy source. It actually changes the texture of the fluid.
No, it's all about viscosity. High blood sugar essentially turns your blood into something like syrup. It becomes sticky.
Syrup. That's a powerful image.
The technical term is glycation sugar molecules literally bonding to proteins and red blood cells, making them stiff and sticky. So now, look at your garden hoses again. You are trying to pump thick, sticky maple syrup through a hose the width of a human hair.
And you've got the pressure cranked up to fire hydrant levels.
And you crank the pressure up because of the high blood pressure. It is a recipe for a blowout.
You have resistance from the syrup and force from the pressure.
Yeah.
It's a mechanical disaster waiting to happen.
It is. The friction from that sticky blood damages the delicate inner lining of the hoses. There are these tiny crucial cells called pericytes. Think of them as the little bands of duct tape wrapping the hose to keep it strong. High sugar levels cause those pericytes to die off. They disappear. And when they die, the hose loses its structural integrity. It becomes weak and brittle.
And this leads us to the two main ways the garden gets destroyed. The source breaks this down very clearly into leaking and clogging.
Two simple words for two complex processes.
Let's start with leaking. This is what the source calls mechanism A.
Mechanism A is exactly what you'd think. It's what happens when that fire hose pressure blows tiny pinholes in the weakened vessel walls. Fluid, which is blood, plasma, lipids, all of it, starts seeping out into the soil.
And it's not supposed to be there.
It's absolutely not supposed to be there.
And when soil gets too much water,
it turns to mud, it gets boggy, swampy. In the eye, we call this edema. The retina absorbs that excess fluid and literally swells up.
Okay, so think about the surface of the soil again. It should be perfectly flat and smooth to catch the light perfectly.
Right.
But if it's swollen and soggy, it's bumpy, it's distorted.
Precisely. So the image is projecting onto a bumpy screen. It's like trying to watch a movie on a wrinkled bedsheet.
And that's why vision gets blurry.
That's exactly why. It's not that the lens of your eye is dirty, it's that the film in the camera is warped. The light hits a bump in the retina and scatters instead of focusing.
That makes so much sense. Okay, that's mechanism A, the leaking. Mechanism B is clogging. This feels more sinister to me because it implies things are shutting down completely.
It is, in many ways, more dangerous long term. Sometimes the damage doesn't cause a leak. Instead, that sticky syrup we talked about creates a blockage. The hose just shuts down.
Like a clog in a pipe.
Exactly. The sticky red blood cells clump together and they simply can't pass through that narrow capillary anymore. It caps off.
So now that patch of the garden, that little section of soil, is completely cut off from water and nutrients.
It's suffering from ischemia, a lack of oxygen. That patch of soil starts to starve. It's suffocating.
And this is where the biology gets. Well, the source makes it sound fascinating and, frankly, a little terrifying.
Because the body panics when tissue starves. It doesn't just sit there and die quietly. It screams for help.
We're definitely going to get to that scream in a minute because that leads to the advanced stages and the really scary stuff. But I want to pause on this idea of the guarding process.
Oh, please. It's critical.
The source really emphasizes that you don't wake up one morning with a destroyed garden. It's not a sudden event. It happens over years.
That is the silver lining in all of this. It is a cumulative process. It's a slow burn. It takes time for the syrup to erode the hoses. It takes time for the pressure to blow the gaskets.
And because it takes time.
It means we have a massive window of opportunity to intervene. It's not a lost cause. If you change the inputs, if you thin out the water by lowering your blood sugar, and you turn down the pressure by controlling blood pressure, the hoses can actually heal. The parasites won't necessarily grow back, no, but the vessel walls can stabilize, the leaks can seal up, the system can recover.
Okay, so we have this garden under stress. The hoses are straining, maybe they're leaking a little. Here is the problem that drives me crazy. How do you know? I can look in my backyard and see if the grass is brown. I can see if the tomatoes are wilting. But I can't look at my own retina.
And you can't feel it either. This is so important. The retina has no pain receptors. None. Zero. You can have a massive bleed in the back of your eye and feel absolutely nothing. No itch, no sting, no headache.
That is terrifying. It's like a silent alarm is going off, but the speaker has been cut.
It is. And to make it even trickier, your brain is actively lying to you. This is what the source calls the compensation trap.
Explain that. How is my brain gaslighting me about my vision?
The brain's #1 priority is continuity. It wants you to feel safe and stable in your environment. So we have two eyes, right? Binocular vision.
Right.
If your left eye develops a little blurry patch, a little bit of that muddy soil, the brain instantly takes the clear, perfect data from the right eye and patches it over the hole in the image from the left eye.
It's like Photoshop.
It's like Photoshop live editing your reality in real time. It literally cuts and pastes the good image over the bad one, so your conscious mind never sees the defect.
So I could be walking around with significant damage in one eye, and my brain is just smoothing it over, telling me, everything is fine, look at this perfect HD picture.
100%. I have seen patients in my clinic who have legally lost vision in one eye months ago and had absolutely no idea.
No idea. How is that possible?
They didn't realize it until they happened to cover their good eye to scratch an itch or put on makeup, and then suddenly the world goes dark or blurry, and they panic. But the damage had been there for a very long time.
Wow. Okay, so we can't trust our casual observation. We can't trust the I see fine metric.
You cannot.
However, the source material does say there are subtle signs, little glitches in the matrix, that we can watch for if we're paying very close attention. The first one they call the floating clue.
Floaters. Now, let's be really clear here. Almost everyone has floaters. If you look at a bright blue sky or a white wall, you might see a little transparent worm or a speck drifting by.
Yeah, I see those all the time.
That's normal. That's just protein clumps in the vitreous gel inside your eye. We aren't worried about those. That's just having eyes.
So what are we worried about? What's the red flag?
We are worried about a sudden change, specifically what some people describe as a pepper shower.
A pepper shower.
Imagine someone just shook a pepper shaker inside your eye. Hundreds of tiny black specks, or what looks like smoke or soot rising in your vision, or a sudden dark cobweb that absolutely was not there yesterday.
And what is that, physically? If I see the pepper shower, what is happening in my garden?
That is red blood cells. That is a soaker hose that has sprung a significant leak and is actively spraying blood into the clear gel of the eye.
So it's a live bleed.
It is a live bleed. If you see the swarm of bees or black rain, that is an emergency. That is not a wait-and-see moment. That is a go-to-the-eye specialist today moment.
Okay, that's a big one. The next symptom they list is the wavy test. This one seems really practical. I actually tried it while I was reading the notes.
This is based on the Amsel grid concept, but you don't need a special chart. You can do it with a door frame.
How does it work?
Find any straight line in your house, a windowsill, the grout lines on a tiled floor, the edge of a door, Cover one eye. It's crucial to test one eye at a time.
Right, to beat the brain's compensation trick.
Exactly. Stare at the line. Does it look perfectly straight? Or does it have a kink in it? Does it look like someone took the line and bent it, or there's a little wave in it?
And if it looks bent, that means what?
That means the soil is bumpy. It means there is fluid underneath the very center of your retina, what we call macular edema. The photoreceptors are physically shifted out of alignment.
So they're not on level ground anymore.
Imagine painting a straight line on a deflated balloon and then blowing the balloon up unevenly. The line curves and distorts. The photoreceptors are transmitting a distorted image to the brain because the ground they are standing on is warped by fluid.
The third sign is the faded world. This one feels almost poetic, but in a very sad way.
It is insidious because it happens so slowly. It's a loss of contrast sensitivity and color saturation.
So what would I notice in my day-to-day life?
You might find yourself needing a brighter and brighter light to read a menu in a restaurant. Or maybe you notice that your navy blue socks look black and you can't tell the difference between them anymore.
Oh.
Or the red flowers in the garden, they just don't plop with that same vibrancy they used to. They look a little washed out.
And why does that happen? Is the eye just getting tired?
In a way, yes. The cones, the photoreceptors responsible for color and fine detail, are metabolically very expensive. They need a ton of oxygen to function. They are the high-performance sports cars of the eye.
Okay.
If the hoses are clogged and the oxygen supply is low, the cones are the first to dim the lights to conserve energy. They stop firing as intensely. So the world, for you, literally loses its vibrancy. It turns pastel.
But even with all these clues, the floaters, the waves, the fading colors, the source comes back again and again to one non-negotiable truth.
Let me guess.
You cannot wait for these things to happen. If you wait for the wavy lines, the damage is already significant. You have to look under the hood before the check engine light comes on.
And that means we have to talk about the dilated eye exam, and I need to make a massive distinction here because patients get this confused all the time.
Go for it.
A vision check, reading the letters on the wall at the DMV or for your glasses prescription, that is not a medical eye exam.
Right. Reading the chart just tells you if you can focus.
Yeah.
It tells you if you need a piece of plastic in front of your face to bend the light correctly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can have 20/20 vision and have severe sight-threatening retinopathy happening millimeters away from your center of vision. Reading the chart checks the function of the very center. Dilation checks the structure of the entire garden.
Why is the dilation part so non-negotiable? I know people hate the drops. They sting. You can't drive comfortably afterward. You look like an alien for 3 hours because your pupils are huge.
I get it. It's an inconvenience. But think of your pupil as a keyhole in a door. Normally, it's tiny. I can't see the whole room through a keyhole. I can only see a little sliver of what's going on. The dilation drops paralyze the muscle that closes the pupil, essentially forcing the door wide open. Now, I can shine a light in and see the entire retina. I can see the optic nerve, the macula, the peripheral vessels. I can see the microscopic aneurysms, the little bubbles on the hoses, years before they burst.
So you can see the problem when it's just a tiny weak spot, not after it's exploded.
I can see the dry soil before the plants die. That's the power of it.
The source calls this the best ROI return on investment in all of medicine.
It really is. It's 45 minutes of your year. The drops are annoying, I'll grant you that. But catching a leak when it's a pinhole versus catching it when it's a flood, that is the difference between keeping your driver's license and losing it. That is the difference between seeing your grandkids graduate or just listening to it happen from the audience.
Okay, so you go in, you get the drops, you sit in the dark waiting room, and then the doctor comes in and starts talking about stages.
And that's where the panic sets in again?
Right. Stage 1, stage 2.
Yeah.
It sounds like cancer staging. It sounds like a countdown to something terrible.
It triggers that same fear response. How bad is it? How much time do I have left? But the source material encourages a really important reframe here.
Which is?
Don't think of them as stages of decay. Think of them as a roadmap of conditions.
I like that. A roadmap implies you can turn the car around. Or at least choose a different route. You have some control.
Exactly. It's not a one-way street. The roadmap just tells us what the weather is like up ahead and which tools we might need to pack for the journey.
Okay, so let's walk through this roadmap. Stage 1, this is usually called background retinopathy or NPDR.
Non-proliferative diabetic retinopathy, NPDR. It's a mouthful.
So what does that mean in plain English?
Let's break it down. Non-proliferative just means no new abnormal vessels are growing yet. That's the key. We are still dealing with the original plumbing. The source calls this the yellow light.
The yellow light, I like that.
When you see a yellow light in traffic, you don't slam on the brakes and scream, right? You become hyper-aware. You slow down. You check your surroundings. You prepare to stop.
So physiologically, what's actually happening in the garden at the yellow light stage?
You have some microaneurysms, those little weak bubbles on the hoses, maybe a few tiny hemorrhages, little red dots on the retina where a capillary burst but clotted very quickly. But the overall structure is largely intact. Vision is usually perfect, 20/20.
So the call to action here isn't surgery or anything drastic. You don't operate on a yellow light.
No. The call to action is metabolic. This is the wake-up call. This is the flashing sign from your body telling you to get serious. If you get your blood sugar down and control your blood pressure at this stage, you can stay at the yellow light for 20 years. You might never hit red. You can effectively freeze the disease in place.
Then we have a sort of side quest on the map, which is macular edema. This isn't necessarily a stage that comes after stage 1, right? It can happen at any time.
Correct. It's not about severity, it's about location. The macula is the absolute bullseye of the retina. It's the only part of the eye that sees 20/20, that sees fine detail and color.
Okay.
If a leak happens out in the periphery, in the back 40 of the garden, you might not even notice it. But if a leak happens right in the bullseye, that's macular edema.
The source uses the metaphor of a puddle on the front porch.
It's perfect. If you have a puddle in the backyard behind the shed, who cares? It's an annoyance. But if you have a massive mud puddle right at your front door, you can't get in or out of the house. Your daily function is impaired.
So macular edema is a functional crisis.
It is. It's what makes reading, driving, and recognizing faces difficult or impossible. This is usually when patients finally come to the doctor, not because of a routine exam, but because they can't do their crossword puzzle anymore.
And then we reach the red light, stage 3. Proliferative retinopathy. PDR. That word proliferative sounds like growth. It sounds positive, like prolific, but in the eye, it's a complete disaster.
It is the critical pivot point of the disease. Remember we talked about the clogged hoses?
Yeah, the ones that starve the soil of oxygen.
When enough of those capillaries get blocked, large sections of the retina are suffocating. They are starving for oxygen. So the retina does something drastic. It releases a powerful distress signal, a protein called VEGF.
VEGF.
Vascular endothelial growth factor. It's a chemical scream.
A scream for what?
It's a scream that says, build me new pipes. I need blood. I can't breathe down here. And the body, always trying to be helpful, answers the call. It starts rowing new blood vessels to try and bypass the blockages.
This is what I was hinting at earlier, and it still confuses me. Why is this bad? If I block a highway, building a bypass road is a good thing. Why is the eye different?
Because the construction crew is incompetent. They are rushing the job. These new vessels are built in a state of panic. They don't have those structural parasites we talked about, the duct tape.
Yeah.
They are thin, wispy, and incredibly fragile.
So they're not good, solid pipes.
They're terrible pipes, and they grow wild. They don't stay on the retina. They lift off the surface and grow into the clear gel of the eye like tangled vines. They are completely unstructured.
So they are leaky pipes from day one.
They are worse than leaky. They are ticking time bombs. Because they are floating freely in the gel, if you sneeze too hard, if you bend over to tie your shoe, the pressure changes inside the eye and pop. They burst.
Oh, wow.
And because they are growing in the wrong place, they bleed directly into the vitreous gel, the main chamber of the eye.
And that's the curtain coming down moment that people talk about.
That is the sudden, profound vision loss. You go from seeing clear to seeing nothing but red or black in a matter of seconds. That is the hallmark of proliferative retinopathy. The body tried to fix the oxygen problem, but ended up creating a massive bleeding problem.
It's a heavy roadmap. Yellow light warning, puddles on the porch, and then the red light crash. But this is the deep dive, and we promised we wouldn't just sit in the problem.
Right.
We need to talk about the solution. The source pivots here to a section it calls empowerment.
And this is by far the most important part of our whole conversation. If you tune out everything else we've said, please listen to this.
It's the big question every single patient asks. Can I reverse it?
Can I get my vision back?
And the answer is nuanced. It's not a simple yes or no.
It is. We cannot always erase old scar tissue. If the soil has turned to stone, it's stone. That damage is done. But can we dry up the mud? Yes. Can we stop the leaks? Absolutely. Can we improve vision? 100%. I have seen patients go from being unable to drive to reading the bottom line of the eye chart. It is possible.
And it starts with what the source calls the big three. These are the levers that you, the patient, control. We already talked about sugar and pressure. But the source adds a third one, cholesterol.
The lipid profile. People forget about this one all the time, but remember, the leaks from the hoses aren't just water, they're blood plasma, which is full of fats and proteins. When that fatty plasma leaks into the retina, it leaves behind what we call hard exudates, which are basically little fatty deposits stuck in the neural tissue.
It's like leaving grease spots on a camera lens.
That's a perfect analogy. And unlike water, grease doesn't just dry up and get reabsorbed easily, it stays there and blocks vision. So controlling your cholesterol helps prevent that plaque buildup in the first place.
So managing the big three: sugar, pressure, lipids, is not just about being healthy in a general sense.
No, it is direct medical treatment. You are literally altering the fluid dynamics inside your eye.
I love how the source reframes this. It says, stop thinking of diet and exercise as chores. Stop thinking about weight loss as the goal. Think of them as medical treatment for your eyes.
Yes, this is a huge mental shift. When you go for a 20-minute walk after dinner, you aren't just burning calories. You are actively burning off the glucose spike that would have thickened your blood. You are mechanically lowering the pressure in your retinal capillaries. That walk is a dose of medicine just as powerful as any pill.
That's a huge psychological shift. You aren't dieting, you are treating your retinopathy. You are taking your medicine, but your medicine today is a salad and a walk.
It puts the agency right back in your hands. You are no longer waiting for the doctor to fix you 6 months from now. You are doing the work every single day. You are the gardener tending the soil.
But sometimes the garden is too far gone for just better watering habits. Sometimes you need to call in the professionals.
Sometimes you need the medical mechanics.
And this brings us to the modern toolkit. And I have to say, looking at the history provided in the notes, we are living in a miraculous time for eye care.
We really are. I mean, 30 years ago, a diagnosis of proliferative retinopathy was, for many people, a slow march to blindness. There wasn't much we could do.
What did we do?
We could burn the retina with huge lasers, which often damaged vision in an effort to save the eye from total detachment, but it was crude. Today, it is a manageable condition. We have tools that are incredibly precise and effective.
So let's break them down. Tool number one, the big one, the one everyone is afraid of.
Oh, yeah.
Injections.
Intravitreal injections, a shot in the eye.
Just saying it makes me cringe. I can feel our entire audience recoil.
It is the #1 fear barrier, bar none. I have patients who've told me they would rather lose vision than have a needle near their eye, but we have to demystify this. We have to take the horror movie aspect out of it.
Okay, so what are we injecting exactly? Is it a steroid?
It can be steroids in some cases, but the gold standard now usually is injecting anti-VEGF medication.
VEGF. That's the scream signal, the protein that tells the body to grow the bad vessels.
Exactly. The scream for oxygen. This drug works like a chemical sponge. It goes into the eye and it soaks up all that VEGF protein. It silences the scream.
And when the signal stops,
the bad vessels stop growing. In fact, they often shrivel up and disappear. And most importantly, the leaking stops. It is the gold standard because it treats the root molecular cause of the problem.
Okay, logically I get it. It turns off the bad signal. It makes perfect sense. But physically, it's a needle. Walk me through the actual experience so it's not this big, scary mystery.
Here's the reality of the procedure. First, the eye is completely numbed. We use powerful anesthetic drops, sometimes a gel, sometimes a tiny numbing injection on the surface that you don't even feel because of the drops. The surface of your eye is completely insensitive by the time we do anything.
So you don't feel it?
You don't. We clean the eye with iodine to prevent any risk of infection. We use a tiny, gentle clip to hold the eyelid open so you don't have to worry about blinking. We ask you to look away, up and to the left, usually.
So you don't actually see the needle coming at you?
You absolutely do not. And because we go through the sclera, the white of the eye, there are no nerve endings there for pain. I can tell you, the vast majority of patients say the anticipation, the mental buildup was a 10 out of 10 on the pain scale, but the actual procedure was a 1. It's a feeling of pressure for a split second, and it's done.
And the results are worth that moment of anxiety.
The results are vision-saving, they're career-saving, they're independence-saving. We see puddles of fluid dry up. We see those wavy lines straighten out. It allows people to keep their driver's licenses for decades longer than they would have in the past. It turns a progressive blinding disease into a managed chronic condition like high blood pressure.
Okay. Tool number 2, laser treatment. The source calls this spot welding.
That's a great visual for it. There are really 2 main types. For a specific individual leak, We can use a very fine laser beam to essentially cauterize the vessel. We seal it shut.
Like soldering a leaky pipe.
Exactly. But there's another, more widespread type of laser. It's called panretinal photocoagulation, or PRP. This is for the advanced stage, PDR. Remember we said the whole retina is starving for oxygen and it's screaming for more blood?
The VEGF scream. Right.
With this laser, we make hundreds of tiny microscopic burn marks in the peripheral retina, the outer edges of the garden that you don't use for sharp central vision like reading or driving.
I mean, why would you burn the soil? That seems counterintuitive.
To kill the demand. We essentially sacrifice some of that non-critical peripheral soil to reduce the overall oxygen demand of the eye. If the city's power plant can't power the whole city, you intentionally turn off the lights in the suburbs to keep the hospital and the downtown core running.
So you're saving the most important part, the macula.
We reduce the overall oxygen demand so the macula, the hospital, can survive. It stops the retina from screaming for VEGF, which stops the bad vessels from growing.
And finally, tool number 3, surgery, the vitrectomy. This sounds like the nuclear option.
It is the heavy lifting for sure. This is for when the situation is more advanced. If the vitreous gel is full of blood that isn't clearing on its own, or if scar tissue has formed and is physically pulling on the retina, causing a detachment, we have to go in.
The source compares this to an oil change, or cleaning a very dirty window.
It's microsurgery. We go inside the eye with tiny instruments smaller than needles. We literally remove the cloudy, bloody gel. We use tiny forceps to peel away the scar tissue that is pulling the retina up, and then we replace the volume inside the eye with clear saline or sometimes a gas bubble to hold everything in place while it heals.
It's just incredible that we could do that, taking the inside of the eye out and putting it back together.
It's become routine now, and the recovery is much, much faster than it used to be. It allows us to physically repair the structural damage that the rogue vessels caused.
So we've traveled the whole path here. From the clinical hallway of guilt and fear, through the garden anatomy, understanding the roadmap of the stages, and now looking at this incredible toolkit in the mechanics box. It's a lot of information to take in.
It is. But I hope that the narrative, the story of it all, makes it digestible. You aren't just a list of symptoms or a stage number. You are a biological system that follows predictable rules. And if you know the rules, you can play the game. And you can win the game.
As we start to wrap up, I want to circle back to the outro of our source material. It suggests a community check-in. It asks the listener, you, to reflect. Which part of this really clicked for you? Was it the syrup analogy? Was it the yellow light?
I love that. I think for many people, just knowing that the stages aren't a death sentence is the single biggest relief. Just knowing that stage 1, that yellow light, is just a warning to slow down and pay attention.
The source ends with a call for a clear vision mindset. And they don't just mean clear optical vision.
No, they mean clear understanding.
Exactly.
When you understand why you're doing something, the compliance becomes so much easier. You aren't taking medication because a doctor told you to and you have to. You are taking it because you are the gardener and you know the soil needs this specific nutrient right now. It shifts the burden from a chore to a choice.
And that leads perfectly to our final thought for the day. We always try to leave you with something to chew on. We talk a lot about vision restored as a medical goal, getting back to 20/20 on a chart. But what if the real restoration is actually about restoring your relationship with your own body?
Say more about that. That's really interesting.
Well, we spend so much time feeling betrayed by our bodies.
Right.
Why is my eye feeling me? Why is my sugar so high? Why is this happening to me?
We frame it as a fight against ourselves.
We do. But this deep dive showed us that even the bad stuff, the VEGF signal, the growth of new vessels, the swelling that is the body trying desperately to survive, it's fighting for you. It's making mistakes. Sure, it's building shoddy vessels. But it's doing it because it's trying to get oxygen to your brain. It's trying to keep you seeing.
That is a profound shift in perspective. If you view your body as a struggling ally rather than a failing enemy, how does that change the way you care for it?
Right.
You nurture an ally. You have compassion for an ally. You don't ignore them out of guilt or shame. You help them. You say, okay, I hear you. You're struggling. Let me clean up the syrup for you. Let me help you by lowering the pressure.
Exactly. Your eyes are fighting for you every second of every day. Maybe it's time to join the fight alongside them.
I can't top that. That is the perfect place to land.
Thanks for diving in with us today. Take care of your gardens, everyone.
See you next time.